People like us are often asked on the streets or in other places, where are you from? No, where are you really from? Right? So that was one thing. And as writers, if you're at all a real writer, you're interested in form, you're interested in language, you're interested in thinking about structure.
The library was my space, and there was just so much.
To the Harbor Grace excursion with the boys to have a time.
I have to make a run on the coffee. When I welcome my students on the first day of class, I exaggerate and say to them that this is the best class they will attend at the college. It's going to be downhill from here. And I thought of that only because while I was waiting, I saw on the screen, you have got some lovely talks coming up. And that's great, that's wonderful. But this is going to be the best. I just thought I should tell you that so that you guys are prepared. We were going to, when this idea was proposed, Laurie sent out a note saying, what do you guys want to talk about? And Souvankham said, from, oblique, and form. And that's important. People like us are often asked on the streets or in other places, where are you from? No, where are you really from? Right? So that was one thing. And as writers, if you're at all a real writer, you're interested in form, you're interested in language, you're interested in thinking about structure and how you're giving shape to what you're writing. So I thought that was marvelous of you to suggest that. Thank you. Brick owes you something. You'll get some coffee. So I thought, if you guys are okay with that idea, I thought we would just read a little bit from both, you both would, to illustrate the idea of from and then form. Is that cool? Who would like to go first? Or should I dictate? I have got some passages in mind. If you want to choose one, that's cool too. I want to be gently encouraging. You know what I'm saying?
I can go first.
Yeah. For those of you who have not heard Souvankham, if you sometime listen to the New Yorker Fiction podcast, she's reading her stories. Marvelous reader. So you're in for a treat. No pressure, Souvankham. So are you going to read first about from or form?
From.
From, that's the way to go. Where are you from? Yeah.
He said his friends who were educated and had great jobs in Laos now found themselves picking worms or being managed by pimple-faced teenagers. They'd had to begin all over again, as if the life they led before didn't count. The child got up, found the note in the garbage, and brought it to her father. He waved the note away. Later, he said this in Lao. Then, as if remembering something important, he added, "Don't speak Lao, and don't tell anyone you are Lao. It's no good to tell people where you're from."
It's beautiful. Thank you. Would you like to read the from part? Actually, someone was going to clap. Go ahead. If that's David, my dear brother, could you read from brother? Page 101.
Absolutely.
Let me see.
These were wisely selected, these passages.
Yeah, curated is the word we use in artistic circles, but yeah, selected, sure.
A bit of a surprise for us, but
Yeah, this paragraph would be great.
great. So this is in a salon that's kind of doubling as a place for these youths to hang out. Everyone laughed at Raj. Everyone laughed at each other. In Desiree's, you postured, but you also played. You showed up every one of your dictated roles and fates. Our parents had come from Trinidad and Jamaica and Barbados, from Sri Lanka and Poland and Somalia and Vietnam. They worked shit jobs, struggled with rent, were chronically tired, and often pushed just as chronically tired notions about identity and respectability. But in Desiree's, different styles and kinships were possible. You found new language. You caught the gestures. You kept the meanings close as skin.
Beautiful. Towards the end, yeah. Let's clap. Towards the end, the mention of styles, etc., leans us towards form, and we are going to get there in a minute. Would you read the form part?
Okay. The songs always told a story you could follow, ones about heartbreak or about love, how someone can promise to love you forever and ever and ever. Amen. My mother did not know what amen meant, but she guessed it was something you said at the end of a sentence to let people know the sentence was finished. 3 apples, amen, she would say at the corner store. Because of this, our neighbors thought my mother was religious, and even though our family was Buddhist, she caught a ride to church with them every Sunday. She made friends easily. She was quick to smile and was never shy about practicing her English.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. And you, my dear, if from 102, 103, if you could read it. Like, we heard Coltrane as if for the first time, is right there.
Okay.
You know, I'm being a little dictatorial in making these demands, and I want to express my appreciation. For example, my dear friend here did not bring a copy of his book, nor did he bring even his reading glasses. A member of the audience generously stepped up and has given this. I mean, I'm coming from the other side of the border, so I just want to affirm this point that in Canada, there's a better community. This is a better society, basically. Yeah, so go ahead.
I've relied on that.
So David, with your borrowed glasses, could you read that paragraph?
Absolutely.
Yes, bro.
Okay. So this is also in Desiree's, that salon. They're listening to music. We heard Coltrane as if for the first time. Okay. I wasn't prepared to read this. I'm going to back up a bit. Is that okay? Just a little bit.
Or skip, whatever.
No, I'll just back up
It's
a little
your
bit.
book.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want.
We heard as if with new ears the music of our parents, the lost art of funk, but especially jazz and soul, blues and jazz. We heard an album by Toots and the Maytals, borrowed from a parent whose musical tastes you would never think to trust. We heard Coltrane as if for the first time. What the fuck, whispered Little Trance. Language, bitch, scolded Drew. We listened patiently to Satchmo and Aretha Franklin, Marley and Harry Belafonte, stuff too sweetly familiar from TV commercials and movie soundtracks. But Francis and Jelly stole it all back for us, the dead and the living, made it ours to listen to before Jelly went to work. He spent hours every day at his setup of Tetrick 12,000s. The turntable is easily the most expensive thing in the shop and probably our lives. With a headphone on one ear, his fingers moving from mixing board to the twinned vinyl, he'd discover and isolate the breakbeat, that precious particle of meaning, that 3-second glimpse of a bigger story of a song, extending now forever. Jelly was a master at this, and he could also scratch as good as anyone we'd heard. But he was a weird one, even among the new class of DJs, for his genius was all about continuous flow, about ceaselessly mixing in one sound, one style, one era into another. He worked magic with the crossfader and the different equalizers, allowing us to recognize connections we'd never otherwise imagine, between ska and blues, between Port of Spain and Philadelphia, between the 1950s and the late 80s. Sometimes it failed, and the noise had no resonance. Even I could understand that. Other times it worked. The old and elsewhere summoned back and enthroned in an amplified rhythm that sent everyone in the shop suddenly pouting and nodding and calling back.
Thank you. So I just had made this request to our two authors to read from their work so that you'd get a sense, not from what they said in some abstract way, but right from their work, where the marrow was. You know what I'm saying? But should we now just try to explain a little bit also what those words mean to you about from and form, just a little bit, because in my case, I chose those parts because I thought, like when you said in your piece, our parents came from Trinidad and Barbados, I got a certain glimpse of where you were coming from too, you know, in some ways. And for you, when all the discussion about, you know, when the father says to the child, don't tell them where they are from, but he's wearing on his t-shirt Laos. You're saying something about the undeniable condition of one's origins. And when I asked you guys to read about the form part, I thought in your case, the whole thing about music and the diasporic mixing of sounds is so much a reality of the forms that we are playing with. And in your case, when you that brilliant piece about Amen, and everyone laughed at that, or Amen, as you said. I'm not a Christian, so I don't know how to say it. But ha ha ha, is that you explain how wittingly or unwittingly immigrants give new shape to language, you know? We create language. We use it in new ways. So that's my sort of slightly boringly academic take. But I wanted to ask you guys if you wanted to say something about what do those words mean to you? You proposed it.
Yes.
From and form. Could you say a little bit and then maybe you?
I was thinking in particular about how where we're from can shape the form. Like, for example, I started writing using a typewriter, and the typewriter ribbon was expensive and difficult to find. So I chose very few words, and because I didn't want to use up the ink and how much it costs, and I didn't want to have to hunt down the typewriter ribbon. So the form that I started writing with was poetry, because it allowed me to use very few words, but to say as much as I want, and because of the typewriter ribbon. So I couldn't have written, like, say, prose, because of where all of that writing came from, which is the tool, in that the tool shaped what I did.
It's beautiful. That's great. Thank you. Man, by the end of this evening, you guys will be tired doing those claps, but that's good. That's good. I'm looking at you, Christina. All right. How about you? Do you want to say a little bit about those two terms?
Well, when Souvankham first proposed it, I just thought it was brilliant because of the way that the two words are so closely related and how, just a minor rearranging of the letters.
It's a poet's choice.
Yeah, leads to completely different meaning. And then the opportunity to tie together these two concepts. I guess for me, so many of the youths in the story are, as I've mentioned in the reading, have parents from somewhere else. The space of Desiree's, as I wrote it, is black space, and black space necessarily being complex, comprised of different influences, diasporic in that it draws from beyond the here. And And then there are other people also accommodating themselves to black space, which I think is also interesting about that, about Desiree's. But I guess every artist has to wrestle with materials that are, is this fair to say, essentially not their own. All materials for the artists comes from elsewhere. There's I'm just thinking off the top of my head, there's a type of a remoteness, and one has to somehow adjust and assemble those materials into something that is meaningful, or possibly even just allows you to live. And that's what the youth in Desiree's are doing. They're doing it in a specific form, which is turntablism. They're quite literally mixing musical influences. They're taking music that was, for instance, created in a context of the past, say a Black American context or Caribbean context, appropriated then into and commercialized and turned into something else. And then they themselves are taking that back and reorienting it to how they want to live and how they want to imagine possibilities. But I guess, I'm not as cool as those guys in Desiree's. I really am not. I'm not anywhere as I never was. But I was always struck by how turntablism could be a metaphor for how artists assemble materials, draw from influences, and make things new, make things our own.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, because you guys were talking about spaces, I just thought you should read a little paragraph. Are you guys, is everyone cool with people reading a little bit and giving you a sense of the... Good, good. Also, how lovely is this title, How to Pronounce Knife? It's great, because the father says knife, which I would have said too, but yeah.
He says it with absolute confidence.
Yeah.
And so does the girl.
So, yeah. That's a great play, especially how you end the story. Yeah.
It's the mispronunciation. It's not humiliating or embarrassing or shameful when you don't know how to pronounce an English word. It's funny. It's strange.
By the way, is it GIF or GIF? I've never known that. Do you have any idea? That's one of the things that has eluded my keen immigrant ear. You know what I'm saying? Is it GIF or GIF? What do you think?
I don't know.
What do you think?
I
Do you know? Do you know what I'm talking about? GIF, when they say?
I would choose one and say it with
Confidence, yeah. That's a good response, yeah. I very much like Souvankham's confidence. In fact, I was trying to talk to her earlier, and the way she looked at me, I thought I must be saying something very stupid, or she was like gently scrutinizing. We are in a library. We have all met. This is a wonderful space. And there's a lovely little passage. Would you mind reading that, David?
Sure.
About the library. The kids, they're young. They meet in the library. This is on page 52. And I thought we should, for Susanna and her crew, we should show our proper gratitude by seeing how people meet and benefit from such public spaces.
Sure.
52, boss.
Yeah, got it. Right there?
The library, she said.
Okay.
And then the little description, just,
All right. The library, she said. Saying, let's go to the library. See, I didn't have to say, let's go to the library. I could just... We walked a dozen blocks to the green glass building. Stepping into it, I felt the sharpness of the air conditioning, felt the wet skin of my shirt clinging. Whenever we visited the library together, we would always try to get seats at the table beside a green-tinted window. And although the library was busy that day, we managed to score it. the plastic sticky beneath our bare legs. Around us were ordinary people from the park, mothers with restless young children, a young man frowning down at what looked like a textbook, older men in their mismatched combinations of suit jackets and baseball caps, some reading newspapers in different languages. One held a paper with the headline story about the shooting the night before. Aisha grabbed a paperback from the swivel rack and riveted her eyes upon the pages, flipping randomly. Maybe I'll stop there.
Thank you, that's great. Libraries are great places, man, oh my God. When I was a graduate student in Delhi, and it was burning hot just to enter that air-conditioned space. And then, most of all, liquid soap, which was new to me, coming out. It was wonderful. Can I burden you with a little task of reading? I was thinking of a later page, Theory of Writing, it's on page 87. Or were you going to read something else? That's cool too.
No, I like your choice.
Okay.
Theory of writing. We all know 2 + 2 = 4, and we begin with that. We learn to add before we learn how to take away, to lose. It's a great way to learn how to write, to have a formula, a line to follow. Before we know what adding means, we have to know what 2 means, what 2 and 2 means together. There are many ways to get to 4. 5 subtract 1 is equal to 4. 1 times 4 is equal to 4. The square root of 16 is 4. A square root is a number that looks exactly like it multiplied by itself. 4 divided by 1 also equals 4. 4 to the power of 1 is equal to 4 too. We can get there through a derivative if that's how you want it. The square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of the other 2 sides can also get you to 4. There are so many ways to get to 4. Once all these other ways of getting to 4 are understood, it's not really 4 you're after. Anyone can get to 4, and you know this. Maybe it's the certainty of 4, that you can always get to it, that it will always turn out the same. Maybe that's what you want, the certainty of 4. Or maybe it's the ways in which you know how to get to 4 that is the point of writing, what you had to learn and build, the time it took to hold open that possibility for yourself.
Wonderful. You explained to us that you chose poetry because it was an economical way of saying something. It was a way of saving typewriter ribbon. Can you say a little bit more about what poetry does? Because you've also written a prize-winning book of stories. What is the story that poetry tells, or how it tells it, that is attractive to you? Because that's also a question about form.
I like that you don't have to explain. You can start and end anywhere, and the people who read it trust absolutely where you begin and end.
Yeah, that's great. You're also very economical in your answers. Do you see that? It's like, very good, very good. Yes, I appreciate that. And boss,
can I just,
Yeah, please.
I'm not being rude by taking out my cell phone.
no,
and
all good,
texting
all good.
something.
Let's take a selfie.
No, but there's a line, because I teach Souvankham's work in writing classes, of course, and there's a line that I don't know where you said this, but you said, "I want readers to feel that they are in the presence of someone who is not going to waste a second of their time."
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I think it's a good line. But you see it in the writing. It's the writing, the reason why your work excites me so much.
Show me your phone.
Wait a second, I got a private.
That's great. That's a great line. I'm going to get it tattooed on me.
I learned how to do that in open mics, you know, like you're competing with food, the sports game in the room and beer, and nobody's gonna listen to you when you're on stage with all of that. So what you say and the space you take up in the time that they give you, you know, you don't want to waste people's time.
Wow, thank you. That's great. So listen, very quickly, you chose the form of the letter, the epistle, for this wonderful book. I have been meaning to tell you. Another great title. What does that letter, tell us a little bit about the form. I think I have my ideas about why you're doing it. It's a wonderful book, but you talk a little bit about what that form allowed you to do. And
Well, I was honestly trying, to the extent that any author writing a book that he hopes will be published can. I was trying to be as honest about writing this book to a loved one, someone who was 13 years old, and thinking about what is at stake in that direct address. And I find the epistolary form really inspiring. I remember reading James Baldwin's letter to his nephew. Yeah, and thinking, wow, how incredibly powerful and bold, and also loving in the boldness Baldwin was in writing that letter. And there's many other people who've, of course, written letters to loved ones. So I guess that's what I was thinking. It was also that the book was written it was written just before the murder of
George Floyd.
not George Floyd,
okay,
but
yeah.
of people at prayer in Quebec City.
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry to just raise that. But my daughter was very affected by that. And it just so happened that 2 days after that, she had to go away to Quebec City on a trip with her school. And she was going to be away from home for weeks for the first time in her life. And I remember the evening before, her asking me, or saying, the world, it's just so awful, and I couldn't say anything. I didn't know what to say in that moment. And so that's when the book really, I guess, I decided to write the book. She was at a remove from me, and I could write a letter, quite literally a letter to her, to say how I was processing things, to say the words that I couldn't say in person. That's the story of my life. I can't say the right words in person. That's why I'm a writer.
How clever. That's a good line. Yeah, that's a good line. That's great. I'm very conscious of time is passing so quickly. 7:43 already, so a couple more questions and then we will open it to the audience. Is that cool with you guys? The other day, well, let me put it this way. When we say where you're from, we think about geography, But we also from language. We also from other writers. The great Dion Brand is sitting here. We owe a great debt of gratitude to writers like that. So, and we owe something to places like Brick that publish us, So I want, if you could talk a little bit about where you're from and what your form is, linked to where you're drawing it from, other writers, influences, and what we owe to journals like Brick. Only Brick, by the way. No other journal can be mentioned. Either of you?
I am really interested in reading things like barcodes and tax reports and jam jars. I think that type of writing is so difficult
Wow.
because you have to tell people exactly what's there. And you have to be so efficient, and I like the narrative and the life behind all of that. What was the second part?
Brick, man, brick. We are here.
I was asked to bring once in a while something that draws my attention or really love, and I always choose someone who would often end up in a slush pile because they don't know the editors, they aren't a big name. One of my favorite ones that I chose but never made it onto Brick was someone who wrote their very first poem. They never wrote a poem before, and they wrote it about the dark. And what was so unusual was the way that they described the dark, it felt like you'd never seen it before. And what was lovely was it was so unaware of that the way that they sounded was unusual. So I try to look for that kind of work. And then when I can't find one, I just write one myself.
Great. Can I ask you one just quick follow-up? Did you see yourself as one of those people whose work was in the slush pile? And did you not know editors and stuff like that?
Yes, often, if we just look at the bestseller list, there's a rock star, an astronaut, a movie star, a president. These days, I'm just thinking a writer should be someone who does nothing else but write. And I'm thinking about the things that help bring attention to your writing, such as having a platform on social media, knowing someone who is famous could get you into a magazine. And I was just thinking of myself when I started off writing. I put my submission into an envelope with a stamp, and I, mailed it, and I waited 7 or 9 months before a volunteer picked it out of the slush pile. And I love those moments of someone just discovering something just by itself that nobody, that you didn't have to do anything outside of the writing, but the writing itself on the page alone is the thing that catches the eye of the editor, that is a force that convinces everyone else at the magazine to choose it.
Great, thank you. There is a Buddhist simplicity to what Souvankham said, and unfortunately for David, he's now going to be a big star because his book has been turned into a movie, so none of this applies to you. Yeah, you're already too big. But nevertheless, what does... I say that out of affection. What does, can you say something about the writers and influences and a role of a journal like Brick for you?
Yeah, it's not, it really isn't original, this thought, but, literary magazines, small magazines as some people have called it, but Brick is a big, important magazine. It is the most, sorry to say if you work for another periodical in Canada, but Brick is the most prominent, literary periodical that we have. And I say that not in a boastful way, but I want to honor the vision behind both the vision and the hard work behind a periodical like that. So, Laurie did mention the passing of Stan Draglin quite recently, someone who had the vision to really be a founding force in creating the journal. Michael Ondaatje contributed tremendously over many years, creating the profile, helping to create the profile that this journal has internationally. And the fact is that when we do kind of encounter amazing authors who have finally managed to, after years of rejection, have managed to publish their book, it is highly, highly likely that they got their start in publishing in a literary periodical. I'd even go so further to say that it's possible that some of the best work from our writers are found in these literary periodicals because of things like the vetting process, because of the when you have something that's very special, and it's not a book, but it is a very special piece. I'd like to think of a writer who cares truly about literature, sending it to the literary periodical, to sending it to Brick. And I know that's true because there are pieces like that I find in Brick that are just amazing. So, I think it's. Cool. I don't think I can imagine. Well, the world of writing would be a scary place, actually, if it was you lose or win. You remain anonymous on a slush pile and you don't get anything published, or you win by publishing your book and maybe kind of that's not literary culture. That's some deformed, demented notion of celebrity, which doesn't produce anything good. It really doesn't. And what holds us to account in terms of vision and form is the literary periodical. And so that's why I feel very honored to be working with
what a great
all
sentiment.
of you,
Yeah.
Laurie, and other people that work for Brick.
Thank
Dion
you.
is here as well, too.
And the audience, the readers, yeah.
And the
who
readers,
keep
yeah.
who keep a magazine like that afloat, etc.
That's true. That's absolutely true. And that's the only way that it stays afloat, yeah.
Excellent. Now, audience, let's give them a round of applause.